answer a question that was asked yesterday on whatchamacallit's thing.
We're live, Doug.
Hi, guys. How are you? Good evening. Doug Force here with the Mythos Canada, and we're going to have a little bit of fun tonight. I've got some new people coming on. Hopefully, everybody can get their links. You did send one to Alex, right, Ed? For Alex to join us tonight?
Yep.
And I just sent one to Dario, so hopefully Dario will click on that and he'll join us tonight. We have Big John from Alberta, who's almost a regular, I would say, on these roundtable events. And it's wonderful to have him back. He had to work today and he rushed home to be here tonight for us. I much appreciate John and his dedication to what he does here. Before we get started, I did a live stream yesterday with Critical Thinker. And there was a gentleman who was in the chat and he asked a question. And the question was based on an article by Bloomberg. And the article was written by a guy called Jim Bianco. And he talks about how the Fed has been buying up various mortgage-backed securities, term asset-backed securities, secondary market credit facilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he also mentioned that the Fed doesn't really have the right to do that. The Fed was created, but the Fed could buy only government-guaranteed securities. So why are they suddenly buying all of these mortgage-backed securities, et cetera, that are not government-guaranteed securities? And he went on to say it looks like that this is something. He says, in other words, the federal government is nationalizing big swaths of the financial market. The Fed is providing the money to do it. BlackRock will be doing the trades. This scheme essentially merges the Fed and the Treasury into one organization. So meet the new Fed chairman, Donald Trump. Okay. So this went out on Twitter, and Mr. Breen asked me this question: how can the federal government in the United States, the U.S. Treasury, merge with the Fed? And I answered his question briefly, but I'm going to get into it a little more deeper now. The Fed actually, because please understand how this was written, essentially merges, okay? Doesn't actually merge the Fed and the U.S. Treasury. What the U.S. Treasury is actually doing, ladies and gentlemen, is buying on behalf of the U.S. government mortgage-backed securities and U.S. Treasuries. These are the big ones. This is the big thing that they're doing every day. I think it's about $150 billion a day now. And they're buying these off the bank's balance sheets. And they're buying it not to put on their balance sheet. The Fed will not put it on their balance sheet. What they do is the Fed buys it and passes it through to two entities. The U.S. Treasuries are bought off the bank's balance sheet and passed to the U.S. Treasury. And then the mortgage-backed securities are bought off the bank's balance sheet and passed through the Fed to Fannie and Freddie. Now they're bought at 100 cents on the dollar off the balance sheets of the bank. And then they're sold back to the taxpayers at 100 cents on the dollar. This is to stop any derivative triggers that will cause more problems with the derivatives that are going all around. So when they buy the U.S. Treasuries and pass them through to the U.S. Treasury, the U.S. Treasury pays them and gives them taxpayer money, not created from thin air, 100 cents on the dollar for the U.S. Treasury, which the Fed then puts onto their balance sheet. They turn around and buy more treasuries, and they do the same thing every day. Boom, boom, boom. And what that does is the derivative positions that were on those treasuries suddenly fall off because now the U.S. Treasury buys them and then extinguishes them. So they were purchased at 100 cents on the dollar. No derivatives were triggered. The same thing with mortgage-backed securities. Mortgage-backed securities are paid, the Fed pays 100 cents on the dollar, passes it through the Federal Reserve to Fannie and Freddie. Fannie and Freddie pay 100 cents on the dollar with taxpayer money, not created from thin air, back to the Federal Reserve. Okay. So who's ever microphone, please mute yourself. Thank you very much. So what happens is this. The Fed and the U.S. Treasury are not merging. The Fed is doing a bank. The Fed is doing a bank bailout, and the taxpayers are being put on the hook for that bailout. And that's what's actually happening. Hang on a minute, please, ladies and gentlemen. I just have to grab this. Yellow.
Hey guys, has anyone seen us on Facebook, or is everyone here?
Okay. So I'm back, Ed. Sorry about that. Could you reach out to Alex, please, because he just called. I guess he doesn't have the StreamYard's link to come into the studio tonight.
Yep. Apparently, Facebook did not go live for some reason. We are live on YouTube, though.
Wow. What the hell happened there? They're blocking us tonight. Woo!
It glitched for some reason. It didn't allow us to go live. I'll see what I can do.
Okay. Well, I'll let you.
I'm here, but leave me alone for a few minutes.
Absolutely. Well, let me finish up what I was saying here. And so the Bloomberg in the Bloomberg article, they're absolutely correct. The Fed is not allowed to buy securities that are not government guaranteed. But the Fed really isn't buying them. They're actually using it as a pass-through. So the Federal Reserve is actually a pass-through for the mortgage-backed securities and the other securities that they are purchasing. The reality is that the Federal Reserve hasn't been the Federal Reserve since 1983. February 10th, 1983, HJR 192 was repealed by the Reagan administration. And what is HJR 192? HJR 192 gave the Federal Reserve the right to issue Federal Reserve notes as legal tender for payment of all debts in the United States. That was repealed on February the 10th, 1983. So from February 10th, 1983 till present day, the Federal Reserve has been issuing Federal Reserve notes illegally and unlawfully without the proper authority from the federal government. So when they buy securities, does it really matter? They're illegal and unlawful anyways. They haven't had the right to issue Federal Reserve notes since '83. So they also haven't had they're not allowed to issue money without actually having a U.S. Treasury underneath it. Because HJR 192 has been repealed, the U.S. Federal Reserve issues Federal Reserve notes without U.S. Treasuries. In other words, they actually do create them from thin air. So at the end of the day, the U.S. Treasury did not merge with the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve continues to be an independent, privately owned central bank for the United States. And if you want to understand a little bit more what are Federal Reserve notes denominated as U.S. dollars, what are U.S. dollars, please look up Title 12 USC 411, and it will explain that to you. It was created in 1933 to give the remedy for Americans to either use Federal Reserve notes and pay income tax, or use lawful money of the United States, U.S. dollars, and not be accountable for income tax. So that's Title 12 USC 411. So anyways, that should take care of Mr. Breen for this evening. And anybody else who had been watching that live stream. So tonight, we're going to be talking about something very interesting. We're going to be talking about SARS-CoV-2, which you've been generally told is what's COVID-19 or coronavirus. We're going to talk a little bit about that this evening. I've got John, I've got Dario, and hopefully Alex will be joining us. Possibly a couple others over the duration. And we're also going to be talking about something that nobody seems to be talking about. Well, there's been a couple of live streams on it, but very few people have been talking about this. And that is the agenda ID 2020. And where did that come from? Well, that came from that little meeting that happened in October by Bill and Melinda Gates called the Event 201. And I just want to read you a quick quote from that, because I think this is very interesting. So it says here, one invariant of the many presentations that occurred during the Event 201, which were recorded and are still available on the official website. And Ed, if you could take a moment, put the official website up in the background there so that people can go to it. If not, I'll put it up in the chat anyways. Is the conspicuous absence of nation states playing any guiding role to solve this hypothetical global crisis. Representatives of the deep state performing at the event continuously emphasized the need for new regimes for global governance, data and perception management, financial distribution, and crisis management by the private sector and civil society. But sovereign nation states hardly had any role to play in any of this. Kind of an interesting statement, I would say, considering that this brought us Agenda ID 2020. And we're going to talk about this in more in-depth. Now you can go to the website. I'll actually put it up. Are we still not on Facebook?
No, what I'm gonna try to do is share the link from this feed on YouTube onto your page.
Okay, that's kind of weird, eh?
Well, I don't know what to say, but it's just glitched and that's it.
Yeah, that's kind of sad.
Or maybe they're playing games, who knows?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. This is a pretty hot topic that we'll be getting into here. I'll put up the link in the chat here on YouTube for the people as well to have that. It's very interesting, folks. You're going to hopefully we'll be able to cover this. Hang on just a second. Copy that, and I'll put that over here. For you people watching us on the chat, there we go. That's what Ed had on the screen behind him was for, there it is there, Event 201. The other thing that I wanted to briefly talk about before we open up the roundtable is I did this on Leo's, or on Critical's stream last night, or yesterday afternoon. We talked about H1N1 and the 60.8 million people involved with that in the United States from the CDC. And the numbers came from the CDC. So 60.8 million. And yet it wasn't considered a pandemic. And yet they didn't close down the country. Now, the amount of people that actually had this problem from H1N1 was somewhere in the neighborhood, just inside the United States, of over 30,000 people. Today, if Ed is good enough to do this for me, we also have a world event for Corona's update. And I'm going to put this one in the chat as well so that you can see. So today, globally, there were 856,917 cases. There were 42,000 deaths, and so far 177,000 have recovered. So if the CDC back in 2000, I believe it was 2009, with H1N1, 60 million affected, just inside the United States, just in the USA, okay? They didn't shut the borders. They didn't call it a pandemic. Over 30,000 people passed away from it. And that was just inside the US.
If I might add here, Doug, to reach a pandemic rate in any country around the world, it needs to exceed more than 12% of the population.
Well, and so did 42,000 deaths precede. The population of the world is 7.8 billion. There are 856,000 cases. Is that 12% of the population? Yet we call this a pandemic?
No, sir.
There are 42,000 deaths, my friend.
Yeah.
Is that 12? Yeah, there you go. So what changed? And so now here we go. This is what changed. This Event 201 was looking for a pandemic to introduce, ladies and gentlemen, Agenda ID 2020. And that's, I'm going to open up the table now to everybody. Please, let's get your 2 cents worth in. Tell us what you know about this ID 2020. John, Dario. I don't know what happened to Ed here. We're still stuck on Event 201, Ed. Can we go back to there we are. Thank you, sir.
Yep, I'll bring that one up now. ID 2020 you're looking for, right?
Nope. Yeah, go ahead. Put the website up there. ID 2020 is the website. and I'll put that up in the chat as well for us, for the people following, so they can put it on their computer as well. But this is what we're going to be chatting about tonight. And so, guys, I know that you've been doing a little bit of research.
I've got an echo going on here.
Oh, you have to turn your if you're watching in the chat, Dario, you got to turn the volume off on the chat because they're coming in on StreamYards. Turn your volume up. Mute your speakers on the chat. So if you're on YouTube chat, mute that speaker.
Okay, I got it.
There we go. No more echo.
No more echo. Okay, can you hear me?
I can. Be delighted. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Okay.
Finally.
Meet you too, actually. Finally.
Yeah. And it's wonderful to have you join us tonight on the roundtable.
Well, I'm glad to be here. So with everything that's going on with COVID-19 and everything else, and so yeah, I'm glad to be here. But I'm also wondering what's going to happen tomorrow and the day after, right? Because everything's happening so fast. And
well, and so this, John, I'm going to mute my mic. I've got to step off just for a minute here. Would you mind taking over and getting started on this ID 2020?
Yes, sir, I will. Okay. I just need to look at the YouTube chat here and see if anyone's responded to what is ID 2020. The boy, it's in the vaccination. You are absolutely correct, sir. ID 2020, which has rolled out at the beginning of March, they're going to start implementing forced vaccines, and these forced vaccines have nanotechnology in them, which also is going to identify you, which is going to give them the ability to track you. And I've read some stuff about them being able to use 5G as a weapon against you. Say you're the troublemaker in a crowd. They're able to zone in on you and target you and not the people around you. It's bad stuff. It's not good. What is this world coming to? We've got all kinds of things happening now here in Canada. National parks are closed. I'm not sure if truck traffic's getting through yet, but I just got an email on that the other day. When provincial quarantine happens, it's going to be a tumbleweed effect. City quarantines, town quarantines follow. And let's not forget the 10 days of darkness that's supposed to happen. Now, this is speculation, of course, but according to Q, it was supposed to happen Sunday or Monday. Well, today's Tuesday, it didn't happen, and they haven't been correct about everything thus far anyway with their predictions. And I've also heard it's supposed to happen April 1st. And this 10 days of darkness includes cutoff of all cell phones, TV, internet, any form of communication whatsoever. You'll be left with power to run your furnace, keep your food frozen, and that's about it, because they're going to be doing a worldwide sting, apparently, of pedophiles, adrenochrome users, that sort of thing. And they're doing this so that they have no form of communication, so they can't make a run for it. Whether or not this is going to happen, I mean, I kind of see it as a good thing, but they're supposed to be streaming on the emergency broadcast system, military tribunals, confessions. Every 8 hours will be a new segment for this 10 days. So it's going to be quite interesting. And given the state of our world today, wouldn't that be cool if we got rid of a bunch of evil? I see Doug's talking there, but your microphone is muted, Doug. Oh, he must be on the phone. So, ID 2020. Alliance unveils a digital ID program. With the opportunity for immunization to serve as a platform for digital identity, the program harnesses existing birth registration and vaccination operations to provide newborns with a portable and persistent biometrically linked digital identity. How many people are going to opt into that? And if they're going to be forcing it on us, how many people are going to not take it? Because I believe the choice is going to be a bullet or a vaccine, as they've kind of been after us for century and a half. Badge and a gun, do as I say, not as I do. Hunger Games, absolutely right, Duke. It's getting, we're losing more and more rights every day. Our stores are becoming empty. Cash is becoming a problem to spend. And let's not forget the digital currency they want to implement as well. Now, there's a lot of contradicting stories that it's not going to happen for three simple letters, the CIA. And I'll let Doug elaborate on that when he gets back on here. But after he told me this story, it kind of made a lot of sense that it's not very viable. It's not a wise choice for them to do it because they're going to lose trillions of dollars, black market dollars, right? So here we are. We can't spend cash or very little. Still speaking with truck drivers regularly that are having a real hard time trying to find somewhere to eat, somewhere to shower, all over this COVID virus that shouldn't have been called a pandemic until it reached 12% of Canada's population. I don't even think a province in Canada has reached 12% yet. So why is it a pandemic? I was sent a video yesterday on the COVID-19. It was a 3-part series. Thank you, Leslie. And it was pretty good. It was a documentary, but there was also some false information in it. But overall, the general gist of the documentary I really liked. There were some good points. And behind all these vaccines is these 1%ers come in, and big pharma. Bill Gates is a huge name in all of this stuff.
Oh, John, I hate to interrupt, but there is another link that I would like to put up here that deals exactly with what you're just saying right now. And it's called Gavi. Gavi is the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. And they are also behind what we're talking about here tonight with the Agenda 20 ID 2020.
Is Bill Gates behind the 2020?
Absolutely. Well, it was at the event 201, okay, that he put on in October that this was kicked off. There we go. So, Dario, you've been actually quite quiet. I'm going to ask for a little input from you. If you want to unmute your mic.
I've unmuted my mic, and I've just listening to everybody. So just want to get download all this information and
cool.
with the 20 stuff, and 2020 is somewhat new to me. I know a lot about the COVID-19, but this Agenda ID 2020, it's I read the article that you sent me on the coronavirus and the real danger of Agenda ID 2020. I read the whole thing. It's I don't know what to say. I mean, it is scary, but at the same time, I feel like there is a solution to all of this, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah. So
put them up.
That's one thing that everybody should be aware of, right? There is a solution. There is a problem. This COVID-19 and Agenda, ID 2020, but there is a solution, right? So it's just a matter of everybody coming together as a community and brainstorm ideas, and which we already have. So.
Well, okay, guys. When you're not speaking, please mute your microphone. Alex, please mute your microphone. Alex, please mute your microphone. Alex. Can you hear me? Please mute your microphone. Thank you.
He is muted.
No, now it's muted. Because we're getting a lot of feedback from his, he's got his speakers on and his microphone, and we were getting some feedback from that. And that was all that noise in the background. Thanks. Thanks for your input. Here's the problem, Dario, with that scenario is that the whole idea of making this a pandemic is to keep us separated and not get together to talk about this stuff.
I know, and that's really bothersome to me too, right? It's like, the 6 feet that we have to, keep a distance of the next person. It's like, it's ludicrous, right? But go ahead.
No, and if this thing with, okay, somebody's got their mic not muted. There we go. This whole thing with this corona pandemic, okay, is basically to allow this ID 2020 to come in, force vaccinations upon us. And within those vaccinations, according to their website, the ID 2020 website, is that they also want to include nanotech into your muscle that will then contain all of your ID. So they force you to have a vaccine made of a cocktail of who knows what, and then put nanotechnology into your body that will carry your ID with you. So it'll have your driver's license, it'll have your credit cards, it'll have your birth certificate, et cetera, et cetera. And this way they can track you through this new G5 network that actually will be able to track you wherever you go with this rollout of this G5. Jon was nice enough to send me a video yesterday that his lovely ex had sent him, and I was watching this, and in part of that video they talked about how the G5 network will be able to track this nanotech that these ID 2020s, because it's ID 2020. Remember, the agenda ID 2020 is going to inject into your body. So then the G5 network will track you wherever you go and whatever you do in real time across the globe. As well, actually, it's not going to be across the globe. It'll be across the Western world because most of the Western world will have G5. Africa, South America, not so much. Central America, not so much. The Middle East, not so much. Eurasia, not so much. But Europe, North America, yes, very much so. Alex, you want to put your 2 cents worth in? Alex? Hi, Alex. Can you hear me? Hello, Alex? Alex? Can you hear me? You got to unmute your microphone. Unmute your microphone. I know it's new. There's a little icon on the bottom of your screen. Unmute your microphone, please. It's always fun having new people in, isn't it? Everybody has to learn. It took me a while too.
I learned.
Yes, and Dario, appreciate that. Alex still hasn't unmuted his microphone, and he's talking to somebody not even in the camera. Okay. Hi, Barry.
What's the second guy down here? What, Dario, is it your name?
Yes, Dario.
Okay. Nice to meet you. I'm John.
Okay, we got it now.
I just heard you say a few minutes ago that there's a solution, and I'm wondering if you could elaborate on that a little bit. Tell the people what the solution is.
Well, the solution is IV vitamin C. Because that's something that I do part time is in the clinic, and I don't do IV vitamin C directly, but I know a guy. His name is Andrew Saul. Have you heard who Andrew Saul is?
No, I haven't.
So he's a PhD. I've learned everything from him about vitamin C, ascorbic acid, and sort of ascorbate, and it's been going on for like well, let me back up. Vitamin C is going on for since the 40s, from Frederick Klenner up until today. And Frederick Klenner, he was an MD, and he actually healed 60 polio cases. 60 out of 60. He basically cured them. So coming into today, Andrew Sauce, tells me that that in China they actually do IV vitamin C, and I listened to him today, and he said that with the IV vitamin C, they basically healed 50 out of 50 people from moderate to severe symptoms. So so that is my solution to the COVID-19, right? So again, there's lots of ways to support the immune system, but the ascorbic acid is not the only way, but that is one way, and it works. And the media does not want to talk about it at all. So much that Andrew Saw's Facebook has been banned. So it's just crazy. So.
Well, that's it. Going right. Anybody who gets on here and speaks the truth gets banned. My profile was banned for very much the same, right? Vitamin C is going to help with the coronavirus, and I mean, make no mistake, the coronavirus is real. It is a real, not a disease. It's a virus, but it's a carrier virus. It doesn't make you sick. It's what it carries with you or with it that makes you sick. And to further the solution to this all, we here at the Mythos Canada, Doug especially and his team, have put together tons of information. All this can be solved by writing a constitution. We get to choose 5G. We get to choose what vaccinations we want. Our body, no one has to say what is going to go into this temple and what's not, right? That's how life should be. Right now, currently under dictatorship, people. And so many people are still not awake. Lots of people are, but man, there's lots of Kool-Aid out there.
So that was the other solution, right? I mean, like, we're all like, people don't know that we are all slaves, right? So when I learned about Mythos Canada from Doug, I was like, oh my God! All these years I've been living my life thinking I have the authority, but it's the opposite of that. I am the slave. So until that day that I'm gonna have my own authority, like I have authority, and Doug has an authority, and John has an authority, and Alex has an authority, we shall be equal. But they have this, we have this hallucination. We have this. We've been hoodwinked into think that we can have our own destination. We can go forward and do what we want. But if we're slaves, then that's not the way it's going to go, right? I mean, it's just like being in a corporation, right? I mean, I remember when I listened to Christopher James, talking about the birth certificate, and and that it's it's the same thing as if that McDonald's were to send you a birth certificate, but it would only have McDonald's, as the registered general or whatever that person is under federal statistics, right? And it's like we have to, we have to learn about that we're a slave, and then,
Well, and one of the things, Dario, do you mind muting? Thank you. One of the things that we have to understand is that the slavery that you're talking about, Dario, is we volunteered for it. It's through assumptive contracting and so forth that's what's happened to us. And the reality is that now what they want to do is they want to take it to the next level with this agenda, ID2020. And they want to remove any assumption that you're not a slave by enslaving you now before it was involuntary. I'm sorry, before it was voluntary, now it's becoming involuntary. And one of the things that this whole ID 2020 was talking about as well was moving us to a cashless society. In other words, making all of our transactions digital. Not only could they track us through the 5G network, but now they also wanted to make sure that every penny that we spent was being tracked and taxed appropriately. And so, this was actually implemented here in Canada on March the 1st. They've started to roll this out here in Canada on March the 1st. We haven't heard a peep from Alex, and I'm just curious as to what his input would be on this. So I'm going to let him have the stage for a moment or two.
There we go. How are we now?
There we go. Yeah, you've got it sorted out, have you?
Perfect, perfect.
Yes.
Okay, so I did a little looking into this fellow Adnam. Let me see if I can, I don't know if I can bring up the article that I had, but apparently he's been involved in quite a bit of nefarious activity. During his tenure as the health minister in his native country of Ethiopia. Let's just see if I can find it. Just bear with me. You know, I'm going to, just 1 second. I'm going to mute myself for a second while I dig this up and bring me back on then, okay?
Sure. And this cashless society is, it was tried already once in Sweden. By the way, I read this wonderful article today that was the headline, and it says, Sweden's approach to coronavirus, do nothing. And so it goes on to say that people have been tested in Sweden for coronavirus. And so far in Sweden, they have had exactly 0 amount of coronavirus. And what have they been doing? Absolutely nothing. Well, Sweden also tried this cashless society, and they got their cash down to 2% of the population. And the government realized that they no longer had control over the money that was in circulation. It now fell into the hands of the bankers at 2%. So they went, oh my God, no, we have to change the law. And they actually mandated 8% cash must be put into society for them to maintain control. Otherwise, if it goes down to 2 or 3%, again, the bankers would take control. So they backed away from a cashless society quite quickly when they realized, the government realized, that they were no longer in control. Funny how a politician works, huh? When they have no control over what's going on, well, that's no good for people. We're just going to move away from that. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of funny, because their idea to fix their society with the coronavirus is to do nothing. Quite cool, eh? I see we have Critical Thinker has joined us. Alex, did you find your article?
Yes, I did. Yes,
okay, well, I'm going to mute.
Okay, are we ready? So who's the WHO's Tedros Adhanom? The Wuhan lockdown is unprecedented is the name of the article. On the surface, it appears that the Director General of the UN World Health Organization has acted swiftly and seriously about the spreading coronavirus health emergency spreading across China. He has gone to meet with Chinese leaders to discuss the situation, and on January 30th, after his talks in Beijing and meetings with the WHO advisory body, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus declared the coronavirus a public health emergency, which he had absolutely no call to do. Because it doesn't even come close to meeting the criteria to be a public health emergency. So anyway, there's a number of items on this person. He's the first one. He's not a medical doctor, apparently. He does hold a doctorate, but
he's a PhD.
Yeah,
he's
in biology, I believe. So, and now where is, oh my goodness, I might be on the wrong one here.
That's okay.
I might be on the wrong one. But apparently, from what I read about them, there is a lot of, how do I word this without getting in trouble? There are accusations about this man and his involvement in deliberate genocide of a certain ethnic group within Ethiopia, including administering to one particular region who were the people he belonged to. They were sworn enemies. So this is a political thing within Ethiopia. And he issued non-iodized salt to that one particular region, thereby causing a number of health issues with the people there and developmental issues, especially with newborns. Under his tenure in that one region, the newborn health or the under 5 health or under 5 death rate was astronomical, and also and plus on top of that, he downgraded. They were what was their disease there? It was cholera, I believe. There was a cholera outbreak in the region, and all the surrounding countries had cholera, and because he downgraded it, called it something else rather than call it acute diarrhea syndrome.
So what you're saying here, Alex, is this guy now works for the WHO, and he is in some position to actually put influence in on what's going on with COVID-19 on the global stage. And his whole background has nothing to do with medical. He's a PhD biology, which means that he maybe looks at plants and that kind of stuff rather than actually having any medical degree. And they've given him a position now, is what you're saying, to tell the world that this is a pandemic, that there's certain aspects of what you have to do to lock down and blah, blah, blah. And this guy actually promoted genocide in his own bloody country. So he was the perfect candidate for the WHO to promote genocide for the world because he had good experience on it.
Yeah, it would appear that, and there was a number of bodies that strongly advised. They were very disturbed by his appointment as a nominee for that position, and they strongly advised whatever board nominates the WHO director. They strongly advised him not to pick this guy, and that he was not ethically in line with any of what they are supposed to have stood for. And yeah, I can see they picked this guy on purpose because he is a morally corrupt individual to the core. And willing to commit genocide.
And so he was a perfect candidate.
Exactly.
Well, and I was looking at Critical, and I'm thinking, Critical, did you want to say something into this? You have to unmute your mic.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything right now at the moment there, Doug. I'm just enjoying and listening so far.
How about the COVID 9mm?
Doug, I think you're muted.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, you can see my lips moving.
Yes.
Unlike a politician, I will not lie to you. So there was a headline in the newspaper today that there were 8 different strains of this COVID. Well, it's called SARS-CoV-2. So there are 8 different strains of it. And I'm thinking, isn't that interesting? So what's a strain? Well, it means that it's a genotype. So there are 8 different genotypes of SARS-CoV-2. Well, in nature, you get 1 genotype. That's it, usually. Sometimes 2, and in very, very, very rare occasions, you might find 3, because it depends on the people that it's affecting. But 8 different genotypes, that should scream at you. This was laboratory made, and it's designed to go after certain types of people. And I have a interesting, I don't know whether Ed can bring this up, but it was on the Twitter feed, and I gave it to Ed. And this is, what's his name? Mike, the pompous ass, Pompino, the Secretary of State for the United States, giving a statement, and then Donald Trump asking him, well, why didn't you tell me about this? Whispering it to him, why didn't you inform me? And it's an interesting, can we bring it up on screen, Ed? Because it's just a not even 15 seconds. Ed, can you play it? No. Basically, what's being said, and I'll just read it then, if that's okay with everybody. Hang on a minute. Where did I find it? Where did I put it? I got a desktop full of everything right now. Oops, I just closed it. That's the one I wanted. So he went on to say, oops, too many, sorry folks, I got too many things open on my desktop right now. Here it is here. So on this video clip, which you can go to the Myth is Canada, hashtag the Myth is Canada at Twitter. And it says, if anybody had any doubts up to now where the virus originated, the truth was dropped surreptitiously as slip of the tongue or on purpose by Secretary of State Mike, the pompous ass Pompino, when he addressed the nation on 21 March on the COVID-19.
To get this right, we're in a live. To get this right, we're in a live exercise here. To get this right,
So there it is, right from the horse's mouth. This is not about retribution. We are in a live exercise here, meaning a military exercise or a war game. And if you listen carefully, Donald Trump actually whispers to him, why didn't you tell me?
You may have listened to this video already, but I want you to listen again. This time I have a little better sound, and I want you to pay very close attention to what he says. Pompeo says this is a live exercise. And what you'll hear in the background is Donald Trump say, you should have let us know. So again, I'm going to let it play over a couple times so you can hear it. It's very interesting. Take a listen.
This is not about retribution. This matters going forward. We're in a live exercise here. To get this right, we need to make sure that even we're in a live exercise here. To get this right, we're in a live exercise here. To get this right, we're in a live exercise here. To get this right, we're in a live exercise here. To get this right, we're in a live exercise here. To get this right,
So there you go, folks, from the horse's mouth. So coronavirus, or SARS-CoV-2, was deployed in Wuhan. And why was it deployed in Wuhan? Wuhan is the central hub for China in receiving and sending goods. So everything comes through Wuhan for raw materials, comes into China for distribution into the various ends of China for manufacturing, and everything that comes out of China goes through Wuhan out to the ports, etc., etc. So what a perfect place to have a pandemic, to shut down China economically. And they did for 2 months. Today, China's back up to 90% of their production. Their economy has gone back to at least 90% now. And that's only been a month after they've corralled the Wuhan virus. Now, John sent me a video last night, and it was a very interesting video because they showed this hospital that was actually a prison. And they brought people into this. They were showing people being arrested and dragged into vans and dragged into the back of cars, and then being dragged out and dragged into this hospital that had bars all over the windows, and there were really no beds in there. They were just kind of putting them in there. And basically what they were doing was purging. They were purging their banking system. They were purging all of their criminals that worked with the Western world to steal the labor, to steal the fruits of the labor of the Chinese people, the Chinese government, through these artificial derivatives, through these artificial bonds and so forth, that did nothing but steal the labor of the Chinese people. So they collected up all of the banksters and they exterminated them. They all died of corona 9mm. And their bodies, because they were infected, were cremated. And so when England asked for their bankers back, they said, sure, we'll send you the urns. That's corona 9mm, as John likes to call it. And you look today, it's what's going on. And this the virus that the Chinese then took into the lab and dissected turned out to have special mRNA that went after Asiatic people. So it was effective for Asiatics. When it first came into the United States and Canada, the people that were getting sick were Asiatics. And so this thing that they're talking about is nothing more than lab created. And it was lab created because why would they do it to the Chinese? Why, of all places, would they do it to the Chinese? Well, the Chinese talked the Iranians off the ledge from creating World War III after they killed the Iranian general. I mean, the Iranians could have gone ahead and sent missiles into all the military bases, the U.S. military bases surrounding them. After all, the U.S. military said that damn Iran built their own country right in the middle of all our military bases. But Iran has the missiles that they could have literally wiped out 15 to 20,000 U.S. troops, starting World War III. And the Chinese and the Russians talked them off the shelf, or talked them off the ledge, so they refused to do it. And so the response by the United States was, well, if you won't let Iran start World War III, maybe we'll start World War III with you, China. So it didn't work either there. And so they sent another strain of the coronavirus into Iran as well. And that genotype was designed with an mRNA basis to go after Arab-type people, so the people of the Middle East. And it would be most effective for the Persians. So we're seeing this thing dialed in to actually attack certain types of people. And I think it got away from them, to be honest with you. I think what we're seeing here in North America is the return of what they put out into the world. And it's not going to be pleasant, what we're going through here. I mean, the corona that they designed is not designed to kill you. It's designed to make you sick. It's designed to kill people who have a very weak immune system, people who are off of chemotherapy, people who have a naturally weak immune system. And Dario made a very fine point here. I take high-dose vitamin C every day and high-dose vitamin D every day. I take up to 6,000 milligrams of vitamin C every day, and I take 15,000 IU of vitamin D every day. And I had this Viking flu that my good friend Renee and Kel decided to share with me. And it was not fun for 3 weeks, but high-dose vitamin D, high-dose vitamin C put it out of its misery. It finally knocked it out, and I'm back to normal again. Anyway, I've been talking a lot here.
Yeah, you said 6 grams a day of vitamin C is high dose. It's not a high dose actually. Every single day I take 10 grams a day, and that's maintenance.
I take 6 milligrams every morning. 6 milligrams.
6 grams.
No, 6 milligrams.
6,000
milligrams, which is 6 grams. 6 grams.
One time a day, or how many times do you do it?
3,000 in the morning, 3,000 in the evening.
Yeah, you should do a minimum of 3 doses a day.
Yeah, I've been doing this now. Can you either mute your speakers or mute your microphone? There you go. Thank you. You might want to mute your speakers on the chat rather than on the StreamYards, if that helps you. I don't know. But here's the thing. I've been doing this now for almost 20 years. And it seems to work well for me. You're a much younger man, and you're about half my age. So I have to be careful about bowel tolerance. If you ever read anything from Linus Pauling, you remember Linus Pauling? He was the guy that actually broke through in the 1980s with high-dose vitamin C for treating cancer patients. And very interesting stuff. And I did a lot of study back then. My mother was passing from cancer in the 1980s, and I used to get his newsletters in the mail all the time because I reached out and contacted where he was down in Oregon. thinking that I might be able to help my mother survive cancer, but she was at a point where it had just gone too far for her, and there was nothing more that they could do. Sadly, but I was a big follower of Linus Pauling, and that's when I started to use high-dose vitamin C even on myself, and it works wonders. And I suggest that people get involved with high-dose vitamin C, high-dose vitamin D today. It will strengthen your immune system. And it doesn't make you Superman, but it certainly helps with everything you're doing, including your brain. That's my 2 cents. Go ahead.
Another thing, this question was brought to me yesterday by Rudy Bruce, and it's something that every one of us can do. So everyone that's watching this show tonight, I'd like to challenge you all, kind of like the ice bucket challenge. I'd like you to go to your local hospital, whether you live in a town or a city, if there's 3 or 4 hospitals there, walk in and ask them specifically, where is the coronavirus ward? Where is the quarantine section? You won't find one in Canada. New York was supposed to have a quarantine section. A fellow went in there with a video camera. He found the quarantine section. He didn't find a single person in it, only the staff. So this is such a pandemic, and I ran into 2 cops the other night and took my boy for some ice cream into Dairy Queen, and we started discussing the coronavirus and 2% contagion rate and 98% cure rate, and people with underlying health issues are the ones that are dying, and generally people over 70. So, and the cops came back with some different numbers for me. At the end of the conversation, I said to him, so you're trying to tell me that this is a deadly virus that we're all possibly could die from, and we shouldn't be around anybody that has it. That's what you're trying to say to me, right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I looked at this cop and I said, well, then where's your protection if it's so deadly? His eyes kind of opened up like saucers, like, that's a damn good question. If you're dealing with the public for 8, 12 hours a day, whatever shifts they do, and you're dealing with all kinds of people, whoever you're called, when they get a call to go to someone's house, they're dealing with whoever. How do you know that this person hasn't been tested? I actually called to get tested for this as another challenge. I was refused. I did the online test to see where I was at. It told me to self-quarantine. But when I called my doctor to try and get tested for COVID-19, they told me no. Okay, well, isn't this a pandemic? Why can't I get tested? And apparently by getting tested and you having a positive test result saying you have it, which all it takes is a common cold, you're now exempt from getting the vaccine because you already had it. And now your immune system's starting to build defense against it. So I went on with these cops and I said, so when you get your badge there, Mr. Policeman, you pledge your allegiance to the Queen. Is that correct? He says, yeah. I said, okay. Well, if our Queen died in 1901 and she was our last monarch, what Queen are you pledging your allegiance to? I totally had these 2 cops just stumped in Dairy Queen. Rudy Bruce was with me for that. And just yesterday, he brought up that question to me. If this is such a pandemic, and this is what people need to start doing, we need to start asking questions. We need to start asking the hard questions. Why? Where's the isolation ward? Why is there people in there? Is there not people in it? Where's your protection? You work in the hospital. If it's such a big deal, well, shouldn't much more drastic measures be taken? If it's a pandemic that's going to kill everybody, it's a hoax. I mean, people have died, and my heart goes out to them because they were unnecessary deaths over government propaganda, government games, government control. There was no need for any of this to happen. And, for a couple of years, well, a year at least, you've noticed around the world that everybody's starting to stand up against their governments. Everywhere. France, Germany, Sweden, England, United States, Canada, everywhere. You got to ask yourself why that's happening. You don't think they all sat around the fire singing Kumbaya, wondering how the hell we're going to deal with this? They've done some pretty nasty things in the years they've been in power. And back to the Mythos Canada, what we can teach you they've done over the last 150 years will rattle your brain. Now, granted, most of the people in here are return viewers, because we teach this stuff every show for you guys to come out and learn by going to themythoscanada.com, seeing the documents, read it for yourself. But there's so many people out there that are on the red pill and just will not accept it. They're stuck in their security bubble, and they think that their government's going to take care of them. They don't understand that the government's the enemy. They've taken your sovereignty. They've taken your freedom. They've taken our freedom of speech. I mean, you can't even post stuff on Facebook anymore. We're having troubles tonight getting this video on Facebook because we're being shadow banned. It's endless, all because of the truth. Well, the people are uniting. The people have had enough. And if the people of Alberta united and got this constitution done, our federal and provincial governments would be non-existent. And not overnight. There'd be a transition period for it to happen, probably 1 to 3 years. But our new de jure government would be granted more authority than the current government has. So everything goes with the government that we choose by writing our constitution and telling our new government how we want to be governed, not to have a dictator. Who can't wait for the 50% carbon tax hike? Well, we're in a massive recession and everyone's at home. Who's running out of food? Who can't pay their rent this month? The first is tomorrow. I know of quite a few people that can't pay their rent. And man, we are not even near the bottom of what's coming. And the thing about this all is we can change this in 6 months if we want. If people would just unite. We've been after people for over a year now, trying to educate people. We're doing constitutional committee meetings, Neil Maguda, myself, and Kathy, what the hell's her last name? I forget. Anyways, we're going to different towns. We're doing lots of Facebook stuff. We're doing Skype stuff. Now we have a population ban where we can't be in groups of 10 or more. How much more are you going to take, people? When are you going to finally stop drinking the Kool-Aid? And the people that have stopped drinking the Kool-Aid and are sitting behind the keyboard, when are those people going to stop sitting behind the keyboard and getting out and getting involved and starting to educate people and starting to make something happen? Now we've got this ID2020 that started this month. Before long, there's going to be martial law and there's going to be forced vaccinations. Bullet or a vaccine? I believe that's going to be your option. Why? Look at their track record. Look at what they're doing. And if you don't believe that, have a look at the UN Agenda 21 or 2030. Read up on some of that. Global depopulation, 7.6 billion to 500 million. It's crazy what's going on. And it's all happening right in front of our faces, yet everyone still just wants to sit behind the keyboard. And the people that are actively involved, you're looking at on your screen right now. This is it. So out of all of Canada, we've got Duke Willis, Critical Thinkers here. We've got a handful of people that come on and do shows. We have a couple of volunteers that help us here and there. I know Brenda Stetner in Saskatchewan, she's got some. This needs to happen.
Well, and John, we have tonight with us Alex here from Ontario, who is working with Em and Laura and Duke and myself to, once this Corona BS goes away, they'll be setting up to do committee meetings as well. And so right now we're kind of stuck. I've been talking to Dario. I just met Dario this week, and I'm hoping that I can connect him to a few people out in British Columbia where he is, and they can start getting together to do committee meetings out in British Columbia. I think that would be wonderful. And I've got a couple of people that I'm going to be talking to, Dario, over the next couple of days that have reached out to me from British Columbia that want to get involved in doing these committee meetings. So we're starting to get some good penetration. We're going to be doing some French language videos for Quebec. We're going to be redoing an offline interview with Jean-Paul Réhum in the next 2 weeks. And then I'm going to have that done also in French for Quebec people. Oh, you're putting up the French, Tonique. Oh, thank you very much. So for all you French watchers, Ed was nice enough to put up the French version of tonic water for it.
Well, I'm also hoarding tonic water. I don't know if you guys want to talk about what's in tonic water.
Oh yeah, well, you go ahead. You know what's in it. That's for the malaria virus that they used to use back in the 1800s.
Well, this drug, I believe that they've been using in Russia and a few other countries to cure this COVID-19. It's a synthetic version of quinine, which the natural version goes into tonic water. And as you can see, I'm starting to hoard it. So, and
just in case.
Do not use tonic water to clean your fish tanks. It won't work.
And the quinine will kill the fish. That's for sure.
There you go.
You have a fish fry.
I have a question for you, Doug.
Yeah, go ahead.
Based on the research you've done and the numbers you've seen, how many false positives do you believe are included in those numbers?
Well, here's the problem. If you've had the common cold in the last 15 or 20 years and you go for this test, you will test positive. And Duke made a very interesting comment in the chat here today for a good reason, that they're not testing you. Because if they did test all the people in Canada, you would have 37 million people who tested positive. So they couldn't force you to take a vaccine because you've already had the coronavirus. You have the antibodies in your bloodstream today from corona, from the COVID. And just because it's a COVID-19, the COVID that is in your bloodstream today could have just been a common cold or a common flu that you had 10 years ago, or last year or the year before. So you'll test positive for these viruses. And so in order for them to roll out this forced vaccine, they need to say, well, you didn't test positive, and you have to have this vaccine, and this vaccine is not a vaccine at all. But according to what they're going to do at this agenda ID 2020 is they're going to put all kinds of interesting things in the vaccine, not to protect you, but to actually put a time bomb in your body so that you might die in 20 years of a very nasty cancer or a brain aneurysm or what have you, along with what they're putting in there with these nanotech ID chips, basically, that they can then follow you on the new G5 networks that are being rolled out here in North America. We haven't heard a peep out of you tonight. Critical, would you like to kind of weigh in here just for a moment? Please.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, hopefully you can hear me okay there. Yeah, Doug, I did a show on that as well. The ID chips and you know, it's pretty extensive in the way that they can do these things. They're trying to make it look like jewelry. They're trying to make it look any way they can make you accept these, you know, I guess the technology, right? You can wear it on your arm as like a tinfoil imprint, all kinds of different things. And I was really astonished. And then as you mentioned there too, the nanotech, that they can actually make an additional product of the vaccine or any sort of injection, which is really, it's sort of astonishing to me to you know, learn that sort of thing. And I think other people really need to understand that this is actually it's a possibility. They could be doing this. I mean, there's no way for us to know. I don't know that you could, you know, I don't think they'd ever give you a vaccine to, you know, to look at, if you will, but it's pretty amazing. to try and hear what they're trying to do. And, the ID 2020, I don't think it's far-fetched at all. I think it's definitely something, as John, or I can't remember who put it there, the 9mm, the choice, right? You either take the vaccine or you don't get accreditation in society anymore. You can no longer, buy groceries. You can no longer go on a flight. You can't leave the country. You're basically put in a wasteland of somewhere to die off. And it's their other way of, I really don't know where this goes from here, but it's pretty incredible where they've taken this. And it just seems slowly and surely they keep pushing the limits. Another thing I've actually noticed too, I might as well keep babbling while I have the floor. I'm seeing a very polar opposite within the media and actually boots on the ground. We're seeing people, boots on the ground, when they go out there, they're going to the hospitals. They're actually looking, for evidence of this pandemic, of all these bodies being put in refrigerated trucks. They're trying to find out the truth. And, all they want to see with their own two eyes that this is happening, but it appears to be more of a show right now. Like I don't know why these people aren't seeing the same thing that the media is seeing. There is a fellow that is actually showing the media. He was there the same time the media was. And he's showing the media's role and his role side by side. He's showing that it's the same footage, and they've just shot it in a way that it looks quite different, and the way they're reporting it. So it just doesn't add up.
Well, there was a headline today that I caught, and I've been looking for it while I've been muted my mic here, and I can't seem to find it anymore. Looks like they've taken it down. But there was an investigative reporter in Germany today who went out to this big hospital that they were supposed to have all the COVID people in Germany in this hospital in isolation, and it was a huge, big thing for these things. And they had run it on the news in Germany, so he went there to see what this was all about. And according to his article, he got there, and the only thing that's there are security guards. The place is empty. That's it. And it's supposed to have all the people from Germany that had this COVID virus. They're supposed to be in there being taken care of, and the place is empty.
That's everyone, that there's plans at work right now that have been at work since World War I. They're not going to drop everything on you, because then there's going to be panic and havoc. It's going to be like getting back together with your ex, baby steps, little bit at a time, little bit at a time. And they're taking this and they're implementing that. And well, now you got to get used to it. Okay. Now we're getting used to having to stay home with this quarantine BS, which lots of people are ignoring anyway. I'm seeing lots more traffic on the roads, stores open that shouldn't be. Like, people are starting to get it. And some of these people are still Kool-Aid drinkers. And eventually what's going to happen, this is all part of the UN One World Government agenda. It's going to be pushed a little bit at a time, and they're going to get to a point that we can't go back. And it's going to be Mad Max days. It's going to be like the movies you watch, One World Government, scan yourself, and you have X amount of credits, etc.
John, I just want to say something. I think I covered this with Critical yesterday as well. When you look at, people talk about the UN becoming the next one world government, and I gotta explain to them that it's not actually going to be the United Nations. What happens is this: it's when, and I use the example in the EU, when the 28 EU countries came together under the EU umbrella, they came together under what was called the Maastricht Treaty. And the Maastricht Treaty was written by a group of people, and then it was brought out, it was wheeled out. It was 3,800 pages when it first came out as the Maastricht Treaty, and they started to sign up the nations. And how they did it was that they would go to their governments, and the governments would sign on, because the governments were supposed to be elected by the people, and so the governments would sign on to the Maastricht Treaty pretending it was the will of the people. Now, they had a couple of countries that couldn't do that. The Netherlands couldn't do that. The Netherlands, if they wanted to sign on to the treaty, had to hold a referendum, and it was the will of the people. So they held a referendum, and the will of the people said no. The referendum failed. Oh, good grief. So they had to go back to the drawing board. They came out with a new treaty called the Nice Treaty, and then they pushed it back into the Netherlands, and the Netherlands held another referendum, and they actually, I think what happened is that they brought in the die voting machines from the U.S. election, because the U.S. election wasn't going on at that time, and then they brought in the die voting machines, and so they got a really high yes vote. It was like 80% of the population voted yes for the Nice Treaty, and the Nice Treaty was just the Maastricht Treaty with the name Maastricht crossed off and Nice put on. And so basically it was the same 3,800 pages. And so it passed. Then they went to Ireland a few years later, and Ireland had the same thing. They had a referendum, and the Irish people voted astronomically against joining the EU. The following year, they brought in the die voting machines, and they brought the new treaty, which was now called the Lisbon Treaty. And the Irish voted on it, and that, funny enough, they got over an 80% vote in favor of joining the EU. And so in order for them to create a one world government, they're going to have the nations of the world sign in. And by the way, the Maastricht Treaty, or what they call the Lisbon Treaty today, is known also as the Constitution for the European Union. So they're going to have to create a constitution or a treaty that all the world governments sign on to in order to create a one world government. And that has not happened as of yet. The UN has its charter. It also has its human rights thing, but it doesn't have the power to be a government. Okay, so they need to go through this. And don't be surprised, ladies and gentlemen, if it's already written and it's sitting off somewhere right now, waiting to be rolled out when the time is right. And that time will be here shortly. So I'm going to come back to the Maastricht Treaty just for a minute, because I was one of those idiots who actually downloaded it and read it, all 3,800 pages. It took me 3 months to read this thing. This is how, and it was a translation into English. So they had certain clauses in there that allowed politicians that were elected to the EU, once they finished their electoral term, they went into retirement on this huge pension, millions of dollars, and they no longer were considered to be part of the law. In other words, if they decided they wanted to go out and do mass murder, they could, and the EU wouldn't touch them. They were basically above the law. So when they presented this Maastricht Treaty to the various governments, and the politicians read some of this stuff, and they went, oh, good, this is great. I mean, we can steal to our heart's content, and they can't come after us. Absolutely. You can go kill to your heart's content, and they can't come after you because now you're above the law. And that's what really got the EU started when they first started signing up nations. So don't be surprised if they're going to roll something out that will be a treaty that all these nations will sign on to, okay, that say the politicians are exempt from the law. All they need to do is sign them. How many politicians do you think will sign a treaty on your behalf to make them exempt from the law? I doubt there will be one that won't, especially in the world that we live in today. When a politician opens his mouth, what is he doing? He's lying to you. Anyway, that's my 2 cents worth.
Could I ask, Doug, who owns our voting machines?
Well, our voting machines come up from the States. They're Diebold voting machines. They come under different labels. And the owner of that company is a guy called, this really rich guy called, maybe you've heard his name before, George Soros.
Yeah, I've heard that before. I have heard that. So.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is not conspiracy theory. You can go look it up for yourself. It's there. They don't hide this shit from you. It's there.
I found it very suspicious with the last election, where the number of people across the country who voted PPC was so low. There's no way. Faith Goldie got more than that many votes just right here in Toronto. And every single person here in Toronto that voted for Faith Goldie in the mayoral run would have voted PPC also, more than likely. So how is it that they only got 298,000 or whatever they said it is across the country? I don't think. I think the results are likely predetermined. What do you think?
Well, of course they're predetermined. They've got to give you the illusion of election. I mean, we've talked, I did a show with Duke Willis on last summer where we took out the little child case and presented it as the entire show. I mean, we presented the whole little child case. I also did that on that channel where I presented the entire little child case. We have them up, both of those shows are up on Brighteon. I know that Duke has it, and I know that Hugh has it up on that channel as well, and it's up on Duke's channel. And it's clear that you can elect, and they can lie to you, and you have no recourse. So what do we call that? Well, there was this little tea party that happened in Boston Harbor in the 1700s, and they called it taxation without representation. And they overthrew the most powerful empire in the world in 1776 for one thing: taxation without representation. Well, we've had it in Canada since 1990 on the little child case. We have taxation without representation. And what are we doing as Canadians? Well, every April we fill out our tax forms and we write them a check. Whoa.
Has anyone noticed in the chats, if you're watching a live stream, say from Doug Ford, the vast amount of people are saying shut it down, extend the quarantine. What is the rat line? All kinds of stuff, like get the people off the streets. People are actually begging for this. I can't believe it. Anybody want to talk to that?
The Kool-Aid drinkers?
Okay, I'll tell you what. That all these quarantine orders and this social distancing, there's a certain demographic here in Toronto area where they just seem to be completely they're not observing these rules at all, and it doesn't appear the police are doing a darn thing about it. They're not doing anything about it. It's like they're afraid to do anything. So very few people are observing this here. The stores are, to a certain degree. The liquor stores in particular, the beer stores, they're putting tape up, where you have to keep a certain amount of distance between each person. At a grocery store, they insisted everyone have a shopping cart. So there was a shopping cart between yourself and the next person ahead of you in line, regardless of whether you had 2 items or 30 or 50. And but there's a certain demographic here just completely not observing these rules. Let me mute again.
So nobody took the mic. We had a little dead space there. Okay, well, thank you for that input. Here's a question for the chat and for you guys. So what do you think is the next step here? Where do you think this is all going to go? What do you think is going to happen in 2 weeks or a month from now? Where are we going to be? Are we still going to be locked in? What do you think is coming?
Here, I'm particularly concerned here in the Toronto area. I think it's going to descend into some massive civil unrest here, personally. I just get that feeling from people. We have a completely different group of people here. These are people who are used to coming out of situations where it's mass chaos, where it's dog eat dog. It's not the same kind of people as what you'd find in small town Ontario, anywhere even 45 minutes north. It's a much different demographic of people. Here in Toronto, I'm a bit concerned with what might happen in the next couple of weeks. I'll mute again.
It's interesting you should say that. And Critical just had something in chat there that they want us to fight each other. And it's very important that every Canadian from coast to coast to coast gets it through their head that your neighbor is not the bad guy. We need to help our neighbors. We need to help everyone get through this. We need to take down this government. We need to get a way of life in place that we, the people, want. Someone at my door. Hang on.
Well, I think you're right, John. We basically have to take down this whole freaking government, and that's about it. Because with this government that's there with Trudeau and with the premier here of BC, it's like, these guys, they're I hate to use an F word, but something, they're just they're doofuses, all of them. You know what I mean? So they have to they have to be eradicated. Period. Done. And so Doug, if you can give me those people that I could align with, then it'll be great. So
well, and I'm a true believer in not bringing out the guillotines and the nooses, because if JFK once said, if you can't have a peaceful revolution, you will certainly have a bloody one. And I would much prefer to have us have a peaceful revolution by creating our own constitutions and seating de jure governments and working with the de facto to transition to the de jure over that 1 to 3 year period. And we do it with peace rather than with guns. But if it comes down to it, ladies and gentlemen, I will stand shoulder to shoulders with everybody who has a gun and pull the trigger and fight these people if that's what they want. But let's hope it doesn't come down to that, because we really don't need that bloodshed. We get enough bloodshed in this world. We can do this peacefully, and we need to do this peacefully.
Well, that's what I meant, right? I meant to have a peaceful revolution, not,
No, I understood exactly what you meant, Dario. I understood exactly what you meant. I didn't think you were inciting violence at all.
I mean, we all have to stand together. If it's like 50,000 of us or 1 million of us, we're all supposed to just get together and just stand up to these people. Like, enough is enough. You know what I mean? Enough is enough. So, so if they want to do whatever, that's fine. I mean, we have to stand together and say enough is enough, and that's it. I mean, there isn't much more to say to this. You know what I mean? From 9/11 to everything else, I mean, it's too much. Like if whenever I have to go to the airport, they tell me to take off my shoes. I got to put this in, put my laptop here just in another container and this and that. It takes like a half hour just to go through the security, right? I mean, enough is enough.
That's fast. It usually takes about an hour and a half to go through security at the airport. Anyways, Critical, I noticed that you're getting ready to leave. Is there something you'd like to tell our listening audience tonight before you say goodnight?
Actually, I'd just like to go on the same thing John was saying there. It's time. Our best adversary is the people beside us. Your neighbor left, your neighbor right. That's the real right and left, as far as I'm concerned. And we need to get everybody together. There's going to be some desperate things going on, desperate times, and the more that we can get, I guess, almost collect like a tribe, if you will, and in your communities, and form that relationship, form that trust. And this is the way we're going to get through it. Someone is in need of something, we lend that something to them. If we can offer protection in larger groups, then that's what we'll have to do. I just think that's the best way to do this. We have to get back down to the basics, learn how to communicate with each other, learn how to live with each other again. And, instead of the old driving home, you close the garage door behind you and you don't talk to anybody. That has to change, or they will single us out one by one and nobody will see anything because your head's in the sand. So united we stand and divided we fall. That's we really, really have to get back to the basics of that.
I appreciate you coming out tonight, Critical. It's wonderful to see you again, and thank you very much for your time here. I know it's limited, and but I appreciate you taking the time to do this for us tonight. I know that you have your regular watchers as well that are probably here in the chat tonight, so it's nice for them to join us as well.
For sure, and I appreciate the invite. And anytime that I can come on, I'm more than happy to do so. Yeah, well, thanks a lot, guys. It was a great show. I'll continue to listen in the background, but yeah, keep putting up the good fight. I appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Thank you. And we'll continue on here, ladies and gentlemen. I know that Alex is chomping at the bit to say something here, and so I'm going to let him go. I'm going to mute my mic so he can go ahead and do that.
Well, first of all, I thought that Carrie Green in the chat had a terrific idea. We have a massive protest at the cottage, Justin Trudeau's cottage. See what that guy has to say for himself. Why is he in quarantine? Why is he still in quarantine? Obviously, something isn't making sense with that guy and what's going on. What else did I want to mention? I wanted to mention something else to do with what I used for myself, because as Doug knew, I was feeling rather ill for quite a while. As far as I know, I might have caught this virus. Maybe, maybe not. I got over it. What I used was a product called quercetin. It's a natural product. It's a substance that occurs in certain fruits and vegetables, usually in the skin. And it does the same type of thing as the drug that Donald Trump talked about, hydroxychloroquine. It has the same sort of effect. It allows zinc to get absorbed into your cells. And that limits the amount of production in the case of viruses, the virus cannot reproduce. It just limits the amount of viral reproduction through the cell. And I looked up a little bit on how these viruses work. They penetrate the cell, they inject their own RNA strand. Then what happens is it rewrites the RNA basically on a very basic level. And then that is released from the cell, and it collects proteins to assemble a new, either more cell structure for repairing cells or for building cells. But instead what happens is it reproduces another virus. And that's how these viruses grow and multiply and multiply. That's why this hydroxychloroquine, which is a prescription med, and from my understanding is not available here in Canada, and I would not expect our government to allow that to become available. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but there is a natural product that does much the same thing. However, you do have to take it with a digestive enzyme, also with a lot of vitamin C. Okay, and vitamin C helps with absorption as well. So the vitamin C, everything what was being said earlier by Doug about vitamin C, that's really, really good advice. Quercetin is another thing you could look at, but that's something you only want to take if you already have symptoms. If you do not have symptoms, don't try that route. Also, if you're pregnant, that is something you don't want to do because that suppresses cell regeneration as well. And so obviously that would be really bad for anyone pregnant. So don't do it that way. I'll mute now if somebody else wants to jump in.
And Dario was talking about vitamin C and how he works with a gentleman out there you're in Vancouver, right, Dario?
I'm in North Burnaby, but yeah, in general, you're in
what they call the Greater Vancouver area. You got to turn your either your mic off or your speakers down. Next time, we're going to get you a headset for your for coming on here.
Oh, okie dokie.
Well, what I'd like you to do, I'm going to mute my mic off, and what I'd like you to do is explain once again to the people in your area where they can go and get this high-dose vitamin C from. you were talking about a gentleman that you were working with. Maybe that's something that you can let the audience know about out in Vancouver for.
You can get the vitamin C. There's two vitamin C's that I would recommend: ascorbic acid and sodium ascorbate. And basically, if you go to Cripps Pharmacy, I'm not sure what. I think it's crippspharmacy.ca or Cripps.ca. I forgot what the website name is, but they have powdered vitamin C. So that's the company that I would get that from, and I would get specifically the powder, not the capsule. So, because when I do it, I just get the powder and just put in like 2 grams of it in the glass with water and just drink it back. Just drink it back. So yeah. There's another vitamin C you can get. It's from Nutribiotic, I think. That's a good one too. So that also comes in powder as well. So yeah. So anyway, so when I do it, I like to do it like 10 grams a day, and I do it four times a day. So each dose is 2.5 grams. So that's what I do every single day, and I do it consistently, right? So also with other vitamins too as well, like niacin and lysine and proline and stuff like that. So I do it all together.
Do you take vitamin D? Do you do high dose vitamin D?
I do vitamin D, so I do vitamin D, K2. I do high doses of it. I do as high as like 20,000 IU of vitamin D3. With K2, I do as high as 500 micrograms. I also take a B complex 3 times a day. I take CoQ10. So no virus is going to be, yeah. So the virus will if they want to come to my body, they would say this is not the good body to be into, because this body is so healthy. It's like, so the virus will go somewhere else. So anyways.
And the
Got to mute.
And the vaccine that they give you will probably push right back into the syringe on them. Wait a minute, this isn't going into this guy. Wait a minute, what's going on?
I seen earlier that Dario was getting a bit frustrated and telling people, and nobody wants to listen. I want you, and you might have seen me laughing, and I meant no disrespect. The reason I was laughing was because we have been going through this for a year, where you can tell, and everyone thinks you're a tinfoil hat wearer. Now, Leslie's put some interesting statements in the chat: elderberry syrup and silver water. And I asked her to join us tonight, but she's tied up with other stuff. But it would have been nice if she could have got on and shown what she's found for protection against this stuff, because people want to know. People want natural cures. People don't want to go see the doctor. People don't want to essentially do the work. People want to be told what other people have found, who's done the research, much like we're doing with our audience tonight. We're sharing all of our experience and research that we've done to teach people throughout the land what the hell's going on.
That's what I wanted to jump in here if I could. The elderberry, that's where that substance quercetin is found. It's found in the skin, mostly of fruits and berries, things like cherries, kale, any kind of dark colored fruit, usually elderberries, raspberries. I'm not sure about strawberries, but it's found in the skin of many, many fruit. That's where it comes from. And that's probably why that syrup helps, because it has a lot of that in it. And I'm bad because I hate to eat potato skins, but I would imagine it's also in potato skin too. My family's always on me. I don't eat potato skins. I take a little of this. I wouldn't recommend it.
So, Dario and whoever, I don't know if you are or not, are you taking vitamins and all the stuff that you're taking health-wise, naturally, is that in efforts to not contract the coronavirus?
That's just for maintenance of good health. The reason why I do, vitamin C, because that for one thing, it's going to boost my immune system. The reason why I take D3K2 is because it's going to prevent me from a heart attack or for a stroke. So each vitamin that I take, there is a specific reason why I take it. So, and regarding the immune system, like anything that is going to boost the immune system, take it. Whether it's echinacea, elderberry, or anything else, right? So this is just me saying, like, vitamin C is really good for your immune system, and on top of that, it's really, 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 really cheap. So that's why I take, because I'm Italian, and I like to, be budget oriented. So so
Wait a minute. That's what Jews do. You're not. Are you a Jewish Italian? I know I've been accused of being cheap as well, but you're absolutely correct. And you can take really good care of yourself without having to actually spend thousands of dollars every month to do it. And there are, like Dario was saying, there are very simple methods, and all you have to do is be consistent in the way you take it. In other words, you can't take it on a Monday and then, oh, well, I took it 3 weeks later. No, you got to take it every day, and it's got to be consistent dosages. And your immune system will love you. Your brain will love you for the D3, because D3 has been, actually, they've been testing D3 now on stroke victims as well as dementia victims. And they're seeing amazing results of reversals happening in dementia victims and stroke victims coming back. And we've had this stuff, and it's cheap. You can get 5,000 IU bottle from now vitamins with 240 capsules in it for $22. 240 capsules for $22. You take 3 a day. That's a lot. My math isn't good tonight. But Dario is absolutely correct. You can be very, very healthy. Get out, walk. Get out, and who gives a crap? I go out every day for a walk, and I just go out. There's a coffee place that I like to go to, and they have remained open, which is very nice. Best coffee in Ontario, and I go there every day. And it's good for a walk. Whether it's raining or snowing or sunny, it doesn't matter. Get out of the house, get some fresh air into your lungs, and be healthy. You want to beat this shit? Be healthy. It also comes right up here in your brain. If you think you're sick, guess what? You will manifest your sickness. If you don't, and you maintain your status with your vitamins, with your minerals, with the exercise, your brain will thank you for it. Your body will thank you for it.
yeah. When you go for that walk, make sure that you're not wearing any shoes. Make sure you're not wearing any socks. And that's called earthing or grounding.
Not to change the subject on you guys, but did anyone see the tweet today where the picture of all the caskets lined up for when Italy was having those huge numbers? There was a picture. There was, like, I don't know, maybe 100 caskets lined down 2 rows. And there was another 3rd row of caskets on the side. Somebody dug up. There was a movie from a couple years ago. They took that picture of the caskets, and that's what the media used to scare the hell out of everyone.
The same happened with some mainstream media. Granted, I did see it on Facebook, and I forget who the TV stations were.
I believe it was CBS, and it
was identical. There's also other stuff on the computer guys put together of how all these mainstream media TV stations have the exact same script.
You're absolutely right.
Telling you the exact thing word for word. And of course, you're not flipping through 17 different channels to watch it synced, of course. But this fella put it all together, overlapped all their voices, and it was unbelievable. It was a recent news report, and I thought, wow. We all know that the media only spreads lies and propaganda anyway, but to what lengths will they go? And just by seeing, it's Facebook. You can't believe everything that you see on Facebook, but given their track record, it wouldn't surprise me.
let me ask you fellows if you know, there is a common feature among all news broadcasters. Do any of you know what that is? They all have one thing in common.
Low IQ?
Actors.
If their lips move, they're lying.
No, the answer would surprise you. They all have good facial symmetry. All of them.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
They all have good facial symmetry, and there's a reason for that. That's we just innately look at that as a sign of health and as a sign that we can trust this individual. Doesn't matter what color they are, doesn't matter what their racial background is. If they have good facial symmetry, you automatically trust them more than you would trust somebody who's got twisted features like this, like my nose here. My
nose. I got a crooked nose.
So a face like mine is very well trusted because I have beautiful facial, good symmetry, everything's even.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, you're beautiful, Doug.
Anyways, guys, I'm looking at the time here. We've been going now for almost a couple of hours. We're getting a little bit off topic, so I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to let everybody have one last kick at the can here on the mic, and then we're going to say goodnight. So why don't we do that? I'll start with Dario up in the corner next to me. Go ahead, Dario.
I don't know what to say. I mean, we said lots of things, and like I said, one thing comes to my mind is that we all have to come together in a community. So unless that happens, then yeah. So on top of that, I just want to say, thanks for inviting me, Doug, and it's nice to meet Alex and John. So yeah, I look forward to doing it again.
Very good. It's been a pleasure to have you, and absolutely, definitely, we will be inviting you back. John, do you want to take the floor here for a moment?
Sure. Jon Mihalich, Constitutional Convention Committees, Alberta, with 2 other colleagues. You can check us out at alberta.themythiscanada.ca. You can check out all the political history and information, Doug's website at themythiscanada.ca or .com. Send us an email if you want to learn some more. Critical Thinker was on tonight. He's also got a YouTube channel. Very interesting guy to listen to. Duke Willis, another one to listen to. For those people that are new viewers tonight and you want to start hearing the truth, everything that we do on our shows, and this is across the board, Rudy Bruce is another one, everything is fact-checked. We don't create stories to entertain people. It is kind of reality TV, but it's the truth, reality TV. This is what's happening. This is what we're dealing with. This is what we feel is the best solution to deal with this, is writing a constitution. We have the ability to do it, but like Dario's frustration, we're, still wearing the tinfoil hat, according to most. But now we call them cognitively dissonant or Kool-Aid drinkers, per se. So, but it's not going to stop us. I did a meeting recently where I cleared out a room. It was awesome. About 60 seconds flat. And it's okay. I didn't take it as an insult. I took it as I turned it into strength, because what we represent is the truth, and it's for the betterment of every Canadian person.
Also, John, I just wanted to mention that Brenda Stetner, she has a Facebook page called So Saskatchewan. She also has the www.saskatchewan.themythiscanada.ca website. She does constitutional committee meetings with her team in Saskatchewan. I know that you and her have worked together now for quite some time
Yes.
in assisting each other. And we've got a website now set up for Ontario called ontario.themythiscanada.ca. And I'm hoping that Alex and his team will be able to work with, we've got Sean, who stepped into taking care of that website. On the interim, we're looking for somebody to actually maintain that. And working with Dario out in British Columbia, I'm hoping that we can set up another website for British Columbia at themythiscanada.ca, because we have these sub URLs that are free for us at our ISP that we can get this out. And these are independent websites. These are run by the people that maintain their website. So John maintains his, Brenda maintains hers. We'll have somebody step in to maintain the one for Ontario. So we're not colluding, we're just helping bring this information out for you guys to be focused on Alberta or Saskatchewan or Ontario or British Columbia, specifically for you guys. And we set up emails for you so that you have direct, people can directly email you if they have questions, if they want to set up a meeting in their community and need your assistance to do that. They can reach you all through these websites, and it's a wonderful tool that you can utilize. And please, ladies and gentlemen, use the tools. We have Facebook, we have YouTube, we have the website, we have Twitter, we have Instagram. Use the tools we have. Let's get this message out. Let's continue to go. I'm on Twitter every day. I'm not as prolific as Mr. Trump is, but I try to do at least 1 to 2 tweets a day, whether it's a quote or whether it's an article I'll put up that I find interesting that people should read. Join us at The Myth is Canada on Twitter. It's there. We try to help everybody in understanding what's going on. I know I've said a lot, John. I'm sorry to have stepped on your toes, but I wanted to put in that plug for Brenda because she isn't here tonight. Normally we get Brenda on a round table. I know she actually, I didn't talk to her about this one particular because we've got some new faces here. Like I say, Dario from British Columbia and Alex from right here in Toronto. So I'm gonna turn.
You muted.
Hey, you muted. Okay, I just wanted to add to the rest of my thing here. Concerned Citizens of Alberta, Kathy Kerrigan, she's a colleague of mine. That's a Facebook group. Neil Maguda has one called Sovereign Alberta. Make sure you spell it right or you won't find it. And also for these meetings, to learn about our country's history and the power that we have, and we have had since 1931, Statute of Westminster, we're willing to do cyber meetings as well, right? Through Skype or Zoom or whatever. If we can get some people together, and then it really doesn't matter where you are, we're trying to keep it country specific because of course Alberta is its own country, BC is its own country, et cetera, et cetera. So we're still looking for people. We're still looking for reps for the rest of Canada, Northwest Territories, Yukon, all over the place. The websites that are listed on the Myth is Canada are the reps we have so far. This has got to grow, and it can't grow with just the people you're looking at. It's got to grow with you. So please get out from behind your keyboard. Take a step. Do something. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Big John. If I may, let me introduce myself because most of you have never seen me before. I'm Alex Lawryshyn from Scarborough, Ontario. And I have to tell you, I was born in Toronto, right here in Toronto, spent most of my life here. We did spend our summers up a little further north, up around the Lake Scugog area. So I got a little taste of country and a little taste of city. But I got to tell you, this city is something completely different than what it was when I was growing up. When I was growing up, you could leave your doors open, you could leave your car open. You never had any issues. I could get on the TTC and pretty much go anywhere I wanted to without any issues. There were just maybe a few small areas that were a little bit rough, and we knew to kind of stay out of certain areas. But most of the city, especially the city of Scarborough, I could go pretty much anywhere as a child with no escort, no anything, and having no issues. Several times I went to the Toronto exhibition on my own as a kid and had no issues. There were none of the crime that's going on now. There were none of the issues that are going on now. I don't understand how people allowed this situation to arise. One of my biggest beefs, and it seems like a trivial thing, but it's not so trivial when you live it. When your entire culture is replaced, that's somewhat of a big deal. And on Sundays, it's my usual routine to take my sister-in-law to church up in Port Perry every Sunday. And I usually like to go out and buy myself a breakfast on Sunday morning. There is nowhere left that I can get a regular Canadian breakfast in Scarborough. It doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist anymore. There's one place. The rest of it is all halal or something else, or this kind of cuisine, or cooked by people that have no idea what a traditional Canadian breakfast should taste like. So they're taking away our culture. They're, bringing all kinds of people, and I'm sure people from all over the country are experiencing the same thing. They're bringing in people and replacing an entire culture. And I just find it very, very sad and really disconcerting here in Toronto. Most of the people I've grown up with, they've moved. They've moved away. They're gone. They're not coming back to Toronto. They don't want to have anything to do with Toronto anymore. So it's kind of a sad situation. What else do I want to say? So we do have to do something about this, the way this government behaves. The unfettered immigration is really causing a lot of damage, and most other places aren't seeing it to the same level we are here. This is a complete cultural change.
Well, and Alex, the whole idea of the Myth is Canada is we don't need to worry about that government. We're going to replace it with the de jure government because it is a de facto government. And here at the Myth, we include everybody. And that includes the immigrants that come in here. They're included in what we're doing because everybody has a seat at the table and everybody has a voice. How they will be dealt with during the conventions and during the constitutional creation is up to the will of the people. It's not up to us to make those decisions. It's for the people at that time here in the province of Ontario, here in the province of Alberta, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, we can tip at windmills today and say, oh, this immigration thing is bad. Oh, what Trudeau is doing is bad. But then you're just doing what I call blather. And blather is what everybody else is doing. They're tipping at the windmills. We don't tip at windmills here, ladies and gentlemen. We actually move forward in trying to get this stuff done. And that's why we reach out on all of our roundtables and all of our live stream to get you to get involved. It is up to the will of the people. And I say it in the past, and I say it again tonight, everybody has a seat at the table and everybody has a voice. So it takes all of us to do this, not a small group that will write a constitution and then, well, we can look at history for small groups that have written constitutions. Well, let's see, didn't Trotsky and Lenin have a constitution that they forced onto the USSR? They sure did. How about Mr. Mao? When he killed 60 million and forced a constitution on there, small group of people wrote it. They placed it on the will of the people. The will of the people didn't ratify it. They ratified it with the point of a gun. And so that's what happens when small groups of people decide to write you a constitution. We want everybody to be involved. Whether they're actively involved or passively involved, it doesn't matter. They need to be involved. They need to wise up and wake up and see what's going on.
I will agree with you on that, Doug. The only real point I wanted to make with all that, what I said, is that it's very difficult to get through to a lot of the people that are here. They're newer to the country. They don't understand the history. They're not willing to understand the history in a lot of cases. So this is a particularly tough place to get through to. I had a bit of a little discussion with somebody the other day at a grocery store. And I was astonished at the attitude where there was a lineup to get into the grocery store. And, I mentioned something like, this is, to all you people, are you people all comfortable with this going on, having to line up like this is a Soviet Union? And some woman blurted out, well, this is the new normal. And I asked her, well, what about this seems normal to you? This isn't normal at all. Why are we supporting a government that allows this to go in place? And people just seem to throw their hands up in the air. Oh, nothing you can do about it. Nothing you can do about it. It's difficult to get through. And that's my only point.
And that's when I take out my card with the Myth is Canada, and I said, look, if you don't think there's anything you can do about this, here, go to this website, read this material, and then tell me that there's nothing to do, because my phone number's on the back. You can call me. And so I love people that say, well, there's nothing we can do. Well, guaranteed there is. Here you go, and this is how. Because then if they go and actually read it, they call me and they go, how can I get involved? Because you're right, there is something we can do. And you're going to learn about this, Alex, as we move forward, working together with your Constitution Committee meetings, with getting the people involved in doing this. And it's this huge, wonderful, bright ray of hope that we're bringing into this and making it into a reality. That's the beautiful part of this. We're not offering rainbows and unicorns. We're offering truth and the ability to create a solution and fix it. Finally, since 1931, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, we've had this opportunity, but they've never told us about it. Well, here I am, and here Jon is, and here Dario is, and here Alex is tonight, Brenda, etc., etc. Neil, everybody, Duke, critical thinker, we all tell you now, this is the solution. This is the only solution. There's a lot of remedy out there, but there's only one solution. And that one solution is, let's do a de jure government.
Roadrunner just asked why this group is not affiliated and united with We the People.
Okay.
Take that, or should I take it, Doug?
No, I'm going to take that, and I'll be brief.
Okay.
I don't believe that getting involved with people on a small group that want to write a constitution and then force it upon the people, like I said, that's not what I'm about. That's not what the Myth is Canada about. I know that that's not what Jon is about. It's about getting everybody involved in doing this, not putting the cart ahead of the horse. You know, so, well, we're going to write a constitution, and then we're going to, tell the people that they have to ratify it? Or you did take guns and put it to them that way. Small groups of people that want to write a constitution for you, run away, please. Run away fast, because they're only after one thing, and that's to enslave you even further than what the de facto has done for you. Go ahead, Jon, take it from there. You need to unmute your mic.
Yeah, one sec. I was just on the YouTube chat watching again. See, the whole deal with this writing a constitution for the people, by the people, there's live documents circulating today, and there's several different versions of them. But these documents are live so that you people, every one of you, gets to get on there, have a read. My big question to all of you would be, who's done that so far? And if you haven't, why haven't you? It's 4 minutes out of your day. You live to be about 85 years old. I'm sure
Jon,
we can all spare 4 minutes. So
Jon, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you must be more specific. What you're talking about, what Jon is talking about, is the Google Docs that Alberta has for the teaching document of a constitution, and also what Saskatchewan has for the teaching document of a constitution. It's not actually writing the constitution for the province of Alberta or for the province of Saskatchewan, unlike what these people are doing over at the Constitutional for We the People. They're actually writing a constitution that they expect you to accept.
Yeah, that's right.
That you've had little to no input in. I'm sorry.
That are floating around are suggestive clauses for the Constitution. They are not the Constitution. There's a series of steps that it needs to go through in order for that to happen, and delegates need to be elected, etc. And in order for that to happen, well, we've got to start getting something on paper. What do you want to see in your new country? Do you want inalienable rights? Do you want no income tax? Do you want mandatory guns? Are we allowed to protect ourselves? How about your kids? Should you have a choice over what they're educated? There's so many issues that we face today, and no matter which way you turn, the government got one hand around your neck, squeezing tighter, and the other one's as deep in your pocket as it will go. You got police out there who are a corporation, who are out for financial gain, not for enforcing the law. They're not there for us. They're there for the government. the judicial system that's completely upside down, corrupt, which is also for money. It's for profit. Then we have the government, who's also there for profit. They're not there for us. They're there to stick their noses in the trough and suck as much out of you as they possibly can. Hence the 50% carbon tax raise that's about to happen in Canada while people are sitting at home for, what, 2-3 weeks now, not working, when hundreds of thousands of people have already fallen off the edge of the cliff. This just booted hundreds and hundreds of thousands more. And if you're not there yet, you're going to be very soon. Everybody's hurting. Nobody's got money. This is why it's so important that we don't start attacking each other, that we actually turn to people who need help and help them. If they're hungry, feed them. If there's any way you can help them whatsoever, do it. Because that's what Canadians are. Don't let the government win. We know who we are, and there's a lot of damn good people in this country. I've met quite a few people by doing this political activism stuff all over the country. Some that I have yet to see in the flesh, other than on, of course, right? But I've never shooken their hand. So get involved. Have a look at the Constitution draft and see. What do you like what's on there? Maybe you'd like to add something else. Maybe you'd like your grandmother's medication to be done. Or maybe your great uncle's a vet who's nearly on the street. Like, why aren't these guys getting taken care of? This is our money they're dealing with, right? Don't forget the government works for us. We don't work for them.
Well, not this particular government, John.
Correct.
And so I think we're just going to wrap this up now. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming out. We got a little bit off target, off topic here tonight. Thank you very much, Dario, for showing up. Thank you very much, Alex, for coming out. Thank you very much, John, for being a part of this. And Critical Thinker, I know if you're still listening, thank you again for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, as per usual, thank you for showing up. It's more important for us that you show up than it is for us to show up, believe me. If it wasn't for you coming in to watch us do what we do and then taking this information and sharing it out with everybody, we wouldn't have what we have here, the podium to teach from. And appreciate everybody that steps up to this podium to help us with our message. And there's Colloidal Silver. Oh, good. Thank you, Ed. Ed Jemnisek, always here for us. He handles our moderation and handles our StreamYard. So always thank him for his input here as well. And I appreciate once again, everybody. Don't get caught up in the con. This COVID SARS-CoV-2 is a real virus, and it will give you a cold. But don't get caught up in the con. Don't allow this agenda ID2020 to come about. Say no. It's that simple. They need your consent. Say no. And that's it for tonight. Thank you again.
So I guess we got to spread this virus everywhere, eh?
There you go.
Spread it everywhere, people.
I think it's pretty much everyone's got it. If you don't have it yet, you're gonna get it. Whatever it is, you're gonna get it. I think I've already had it. Perfect.
Thank you very much, everybody, and good night. Okay, Ed.
Okay, good night.
Good night.